Okay, so next up is Roman Hüssy from the NCSC GovCert Switzerland. He's the co-team lead at GovCert, and he's talking to us about his day-to-day job and what they do to bring back the knowledge to Swiss companies and critical infrastructure. So what they learn, how they bring the knowledge back to business.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah, so as you may have seen, the title of my presentation is Odysee in cyberspace. So I have been asked to give like two or a few real-world examples, how we deal from national security perspective with cybersecurity incidents in Switzerland. And today I'm going to show you two examples. I think they are quite specific to us and should give you some idea how we are actually also spending the taxpayers' money, and specifically where we may come into the game when it comes to incident response. The first case I would like to show you began actually when we got approached by an NGO. As you may know, International Geneva, they have many NGOs, and one of these NGOs approached us, which is not that uncommon, but in this particular case, they actually already detected the intrusion, and they already had a cybersecurity company involved assisting them with the incident response process. Basically, what they detected is that apparently their Microsoft Exchange server got popped, so compromised, and they asked us for assistance. Now, maybe a few words about the incident. Important here is to say, we were not involved in like the hands-on incident response process on site. So as I mentioned, the incident response, there was an incident response company taking care about the on-site incident response, and we were then involved later on. And when we joined this incident response operation, so to say, we were aware that apparently the victim has found malicious DLLs on their on-prem servers, on the Microsoft Exchange servers, and that these malicious DLLs, they were used to exfiltrate data from that NGO network. Sadly, we don't know more about the incident itself because the NGO did not approach us to assist with remediation, rather than with some IP addresses that they have found in their logs. And the interesting thing about these IP addresses was that the conclusion that the incident response company had on site was that they were used by the threat actor, and they were all Swiss IP addresses. And when looking them up, so that was the initial reason why they approached us, asking for help, because there was this Swiss context. For us, what we actually did is we were looking at these IP addresses. We confirmed, these are Swiss IP addresses. But what was very unique in this case is that these IP addresses actually belonged to IOPs, so Internet Access Providers. And the Internet Access Provider is, a traditional Internet service provider offering you a mobile subscription or a fixed residential connectivity, such as a cable, DSL, or fiber line. What we usually do is when we receive these sort of indicators is checking them against our data set and telemetry we have, but also conducting OSINT on these IP addresses to see whether these IP addresses have been seen before. In this particular case, the interesting thing is that we had zero telemetry, zero knowledge, nothing was known about these IP addresses. OSINT-wise, they were not blacklisted or known anywhere. So our idea was, or our goal was, to have a closer look at these IP addresses because they were used by a threat actor. Now, what was our goal? Our goal was to figure out what is actually behind these IP addresses. And subsequently, of course, from the very beginning, we already had the impression, well, it's very unlikely that these IP addresses are owned or operated directly by the threat actor. That would be very stupid because they are on Swiss ground. But we wanted to figure out what is what is behind these IP addresses. The challenge that we have is, well, how can we obtain subscriber data for these IP addresses, right? Figuring out who is operating those. And we also wanted to figure out why the threat actor is actually using exactly these IP addresses to breach this NGO. Now, as I mentioned, the challenge that we have is subscriber data. And if you know a little bit about the legal grounds in Switzerland, so there's the Federal Act on Surveillance of Post and Telecommunications, and that act actually defines under what circumstances you can ask for subscriber data, right? Who is the owner of an IP address or the subscriber behind an IP address? And that's an example of that law. And as you see, it's for prosecution on law enforcement offices or for the National Intelligence Service. And the issue that we were confronted with, and not only in this case, but also in other cases, is that, we are neither law enforcement agency, nor are we intelligence service. So we do not fall under that act. And subsequently, we can actually not ask telecom providers in Switzerland to give us subscriber data. And we were then thinking a little bit, well, we cannot go further than here, because we would need to know who is the subscriber of these IP addresses. And there are many occasions in my day-to-day job where we need to be creative. So we have been creative, and we thought, well, how can we reach out to the subscribers anyway? And we did it like this, let's call it a hack, which is legally still fine. And on the other side, the telecom provider has to disclose the subscriber data. And what we did is we actually wrote a letter to the subscribers asking them to get in touch with us. And now, as we don't know who is the subscriber of these IP addresses, what we try to do is reaching out to the internet service provider and asking them whether they can relay that particular letter to the end subscriber. And the challenge here was, of course, we don't know whether the end subscriber is German-speaking, or French-speaking, or Italian-speaking, or maybe even English-speaking. So we had to translate in advance, for example, this letter into all possible languages. So the good news is, we had several subscribers reaching back to us or reverting back to us. So our approach did work, and that was quite a cool thing for us, because we could continue our investigation. So what we did there is, once they reached back to us, usually by email, we tried to give them a call, make a phone call appointment, and trying to explain them the situation, why we are interested in their internet access, and what actually happened, without disclosing too much of the incident. And those who would agree, we visited them on site. And now the challenge that we had here again is this internet subscriber can be located anywhere in Switzerland. Somewhere in the mountains, they can be in Zurich, in Basel, wherever. And making then an appointment with them was a little bit a challenge, because many of them, they also have a day job, and that means that we cannot just knock at their door at 10 o'clock a.m. to visit them. An additional challenge that we had is we had limited time on site, right? Usually when you conduct incident response or forensic, you get that device into your office, and then you have plenty of time to conduct this analysis. In this particular case, that was difficult because these victims, if you want to call them victims, they were not willing to give us, of course, the device. So we just had like this very limited time on site where we could conduct our analysis. Then the second issue is usually when you have your forensic equipment, you have that on site, and bringing that all on site to the victim, somewhere in the mountains, for example, that's also a challenge. And third of all, a challenge as well was that we don't know what we are looking for. I mean, all we knew is that this IP address that is tied to this subscriber has been used by a threat actor to access a breach or to breach an NGO. So if you're there on site, what are you going to look for? And of course, our spotlight usually is on any devices connected to the local network. Now, what we figured out when we were on site at some of the subscribers is that they have like this hobby lab, which means they have literally almost every kind of device, from mobile devices, multiple workstations, to IoT devices, to webcams, to whatever you can imagine connected to the local network. And they, of course, also egress traffic to the internet. And that then means, you need to find a little bit the needle in the haystack. Now, before I move on. So what did we find? Beside all these kind of devices we have found, at the end, our spotlight has been put on this thing, which is a QNAP network attached storage. And we have actually found similar devices at most of the other, let's call them victims or subscribers. So this gained our initial attention. Now, before I move on, I want to introduce you to a specific operation or a modus operandi that threat actors use, and it's called ORB. I'm not sure if you have heard about ORB before. So it's an operational relay box network. We call it covert proxy network, and I think the term already says a lot of it. And what an ORB is, for those who don't know, is you somewhere have the adversary, and that adversary has equipment that they control, servers, workstations, whatever, and they connect to so-called relay nodes. And when they connect to these relay nodes, they can choose from which country they want to actually access to the internet. And that looks like this. So they have this so-called ORB network consisting of traversal nodes, and they interconnect these traversal nodes 2 times, 3 times, or even more to actually anonymize their access to the internet. And then they have at the end an exit node, usually also a compromised device through which they are then subsequently access the victim's server. So having a look at this kind of ORB network, we have different components, and these components can be VPS servers that the threat actor rent. Those can be compromised Soho routers. Those can be compromised IoT devices of all sorts. In our example, it was the QNAP NOS. And the architecture usually works as follows, as they have these relay nodes serving as entry point, these traversal nodes that act as traffic obfuscation through various countries and various nodes, similar to the Tor network, and then these exit nodes that are for network egress and that are then, so to say, victim-facing. Now, one important thing to know when we talk about ORB networks is that there are different kinds of ORB networks, and sometimes these operations also mix like different setups. So we have this kind of ORB as a service where a contractor, you rent this kind of network from a contractor. You have your in-house, let's call it in-house ORB network production where you compromise these devices by yourself and use these devices by yourself, or as I said, you mix this kind of setup. So to understand these ORB networks, we need to understand why a threat actor may use this. And first of all, covert traffic. The thing is, when they are using this kind of networks, why wouldn't they use Tor networks? And I think this is a very important topic. Tor exit nodes, they are usually known. So you can have your rules based on those, or trigger an alert if you see an access from a Tor exit node or a known VPN exit node to your network. And with these ORB networks, that's not the case. As I mentioned initially, those IP addresses were not known anywhere. And it also helps you to bypass the location awareness. And imagine if you are a corporation and you have your, for example, corporate VPN, and you know that customer X is currently logged in from Germany, and then half an hour later you get an access from the Seychelles that should, in theory, raise an alert. And if your targeted organization is in Switzerland, you would then just use one of the compromised exit nodes in Switzerland to actually access this VPN and then bypass this kind of location awareness and countermeasures. Also, an important thing here is when it comes to law in certain European countries, is specifically also in Switzerland, if you conduct network surveillance inside your country, usually you have your law tells you that you are not allowed to watch for traffic between two participants of a conversation inside your country. So in our case, intelligence service, they are not allowed to watch a traffic coming from Swiss IP address going to Swiss IP address. So that means that state-sponsored threat actors using ORB networks, they know that, of course, and they know that if they use this kind of inside a specific country exit nodes, that they can bypass these surveillance and restrictions, and then they know that, very likely that their connection will not pop up on any intelligence service desks. So going back to the QNAP device that we have found is, we were looking at this device, conducting forensic analysis, and we noticed that, it is compromised. And actually, it's infected with a malware called QSnatch. And QSnatch, for those who don't know, it's actually not something new. It's something that is out there since 2014, so it's out there for more than 10 years. And there were different surges of infections until 2020, until, for example, our colleagues from the NCC Finland or UK, but also US CISA took action against this, let's call it ORB, or a network or a botnet. And back then, the infection count was quite high. There were more than 62,000 infected QNAP devices worldwide. However, if you conduct some research, you will figure out that in 2009, the botnet was being reported to be inactive. So we were quite, not confused, but surprised that we have actually found this QSnap thing on this particular device. From a technical point of view, what we did is, during our analysis, we were checking logs, doing forensic, and we noticed that, this device has actually been compromised already a long time ago, in 2017. And it lost activities in terms of compromise, and some of the devices was in year 2020. However, after some time of silence, we have seen like emerging of traffic through these ORB nodes again in 2024. So it seems like that there was an action against this QSnatch network that caused that it was not being leveraged by the threat actor anymore, and then at some point the threat actor or a different threat actor started to use this kind of ORB network again. One important thing and one interesting thing that we have found technically is that we have found many similarities of this QSnatch variant compared to older samples of QSnatch. But what was particularly interesting is that the malware was no longer using a domain generation algorithm, rather than a passive backdoor, which was actually a modified SSH daemon. Now, the initial access, how did the threat actor actually compromise these devices? There are only very few hints regarding that, because these devices have been compromised a long time ago. We have seen traces of exploitation of vulnerabilities, but also credential brute forcing. A few further details on that. So there was a QSnatch bash script actually that then started this dedicated SSH daemon that then was used by the threat actor to access the QNAP device. And in order to do that, the threat actor had to open the port on the local firewall. And thanks to UPnP, they could easily open that, and also then plant a CGI backdoor for as some sort of redundancy or backup C2 channel. So also an important or an interesting thing that we have found is that QNAP actually published in 2019 a removal tool. So apparently these QNAP devices, they have a removal tool on the device, and they published an update to get rid of these kind of devices. Now the thing is, the malware actually disabled the auto update of QNAP, not only leaving them vulnerable forever, but also removing the possibility that the operator of this QNAP device could actually update the antivirus signatures. We have also found rogue user accounts, and actually many of them. What is a little bit weird is that we have seen very specific usernames in different languages. It starts with Mandarin to Korean, but also Cyrillic names. Of course, this does not say anything about the threat actor using these ORB boxes, but it says it could also be a false flag, right? If I would be a threat actor, I would probably simply use, Korean, Mandarin, whatever usernames. And also one important thing was that the threat actor was using these brackets for the username, and apparently a username inside brackets means that QNAP does not display these kind of usernames in the web UI. So what we did is we tried to map this QNAP botnet, and we have some charts here where we see the amount of infections by country. I don't want to go into details, but we have seen a few hundred infections in Switzerland that are being actually active in this botnet. Actions taken, so as said, we continue to monitor this botnet for the purpose of finding new infected devices, and we are sharing these technical indicators with national critical infrastructure so that they can protect themselves from accesses aggressing from these ORB networks. And we also participate in multilateral working groups that actually work on ORB networks and to counter the threat. Conclusion, 30% of all the internet subscribers that we approached, they actually reverted back to us, so that's good. We have also found other equipment compromised, for example, Asus router, but we were too late to get our hands on there. And our analysis was very limited on QSnatch, and we know that there are other ORB networks probably using other malware families. Recommendations, always patch, disable UPnP, use strong passwords, and use MFA. I have 2 minutes left, I think. I just want to quickly show you the second case. So the second case began actually with another hint that we got about an organization that was approached by a potential recruiter. And that victim company was a crypto company, and a person there, an employee, got approached by a recruiter through LinkedIn, and that the crypto employee had to solve a challenge. And to do that, they had to download from the GitHub repository an application, which is already quite dangerous, right? And that application was actually a Node.js application that was fingerprinting the victim's device and then exfiltrating information about the victim to a botnet C2 server. Now we have seen these fake crypto recruiting campaigns quite often. The modus operandi we have seen here matches trader, which is, according to the US government, potentially a North Korean state-sponsored threat actor. And what is interesting here is to see that in the past, the North Korean threat actors tried to breach into crypto companies by sending fake job applications, and this is actually the other way around, right? They were approaching employees of cryptocurrency companies to actually lure them into executing malicious code. Now, actions taken here as well. What we did is we were looking into the malware dropped. We were collecting the indicators of compromise, and we're sharing those with national critical infrastructure. And last but not least, we have held a workshop together with crypto firms in Switzerland and with the Financial Market Authority to sensibilize them on the topic. Conclusion. these operations against cryptocurrency companies in Switzerland and worldwide, they changed from sending fake job applications to poking employees directly on LinkedIn. And they also changed to click-fix campaigns to actually then distribute the malware. An important or interesting thing that we had is once that we found that it didn't take long and that new modus operandi was actually in the press. So this is actually a screenshot of Reuters who was blogging about that. That's my last slide. So recommendations, if you work in the cryptocurrency field, be careful of people approaching you on LinkedIn or other social media. Always use a third-party or dedicated environment when you execute third-party code. If you see weird things, report them to us. And if you are, if you are CISO or a security representative of a crypto company, make sure that you make your users aware. That's it from my side. I'm 22 seconds over time, so I think that's okay.
That is the least of our concerns here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Merci.
Now that you got a bit into a rush, we actually saved a lot of time and we have time for questions now.
That's good.
Questions in the room?
Hi, Himanshu from CyberX9. And what are your organization's take on third party which are providing services? For example, a company called Airporter, which is providing service to Swiss Airlines as well. And they had exposed Swiss diplomats, senior government officials, their passport copies and all. Last 2 months back, a report came. So what kind of eye should be kept on these organizations which have a critical information, but government companies, government organizations are promoting them?
Okay, I'm not sure if I have understood the question. So it was about fake passports, or what was it? No.
There is a company called Airporter, which is a luggage delivery company.
Yep.
It has a close collaboration with Swiss Airlines. And if you want to check in your baggage before going to airport, they do so. And all Swiss diplomats are using that. Mostly Swiss diplomats are using that. 2 months back, this Airporter exposed all the passport details of Swiss diplomats, government officials who were using Airporter for Swiss Airlines, British Airways, Lufthansa, which are flights from Switzerland. So these secondary companies, which are working with big organizations like Swiss Airlines and all, are not on the mainstream, but they hold critical information, just like I told you.
So it's about critical infrastructure, whether it's critical infrastructure or not. So there are like two fields or two areas where we say someone is critical. So we have the Informationssicherheitsgesetz or the Information Security Law that actually defines who is critical, and in my opinion, probably this company would not fall under that. And then we have like our own internal definition of what is critical infrastructure, and in that case, that would probably apply for them. But I'm not aware about that company or any incidents there, so I cannot comment further.
You can see him during the break, don't you?
Yeah.
Yes. Next question. He's usually so busy, you don't get time to meet him. So this is your chance to ask the NCSC the question you always wanted.
Yes, I also have a question. Have you seen any cases where those ORB networks were abused for sending spam emails? Because a few years ago we had this very annoying one called Hola VPN or Luminati, and pretty much every time I've seen people connect to those IPs, they were also just making connection to SMTP servers, sending the usual market spam. So I'm curious if you had any of those cases as well.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point. I need to make it quick, but basically we differentiate between residential proxy network and ORB network. Residential proxy networks are networks that you can easily rent on the free market, like, I don't want to call them out by name, but you mentioned some of them. And ORB networks are more state-sponsored threat actors. So these residential proxy networks directly operated by state-sponsored threat actors or tasked by foreign nation-states threat actors to actually operate these kind of things. So for us, these are like two different kind of setups, let's call it setups. But we are aware about the residential proxies are being heavily used for all sorts of fraud. The issue with residential proxies is that, some of them you also mentioned, you need to read through the license agreement, and if you agree on it, then you become a proxy. And if you would read the license agreement, you would know that you become a proxy, right? So that's a gray area.
Very good. Okay, thank you, Roman.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us.